Hi everybody, welcome to Shivers. Today we're doing a new movie review for the new movie Him. This is the latest Jordan Peele produced movie, and this does come out on Friday, September 19th. We were lucky enough to see it early, which is pretty cool, so here is your early movie review. If you do not want any spoilers, fast forward to the end for just the rating. Otherwise, here we go with the story. So going into this, I already had really high expectations. I am a huge football fan. I am a huge horror fan, obviously. And watching the commercials really reminded me of a haunted house that I saw at Halloween Horror Nights. So back in 2022, at Halloween Horror Nights, specifically in Orlando, The Weeknd did a pop-up haunted house. So it was all to promote Dawn FM, that CD he had at the time, the album he had at the time. And the entire haunted house was the best haunted house I've ever been in. It was all really focused on like the price of fame and what are you willing to sacrifice and grow and do in order for stardom and a chance at that fame. And also, who are you going to perform to? Who's watching you? There's all this blood and guts, and yet you're still, dance monkey, dance mentality. Last week, we did a review for The Long Walk, and I talked in that review about all of this like gallows mentality of all of these people turning on reality TV and looking at all of this horrible stuff that's going on, but still cheering and picking their favorites and really treating it as if these people are not people. And this is really the same thing, but just very poignant at NFL and football in particular. So our main character is Cameron Cade. From childhood, his father is a military man, and he really beats into him success and determination and grit and sacrifice. And, no matter what it's going to take, you are going to be a successful football player. You are going to succeed. You are going to thrive. And he's basically like, sir, yes, sir, I will do what I'm told, and I will do my best, and I will perform everything. So that whole family is a big fan of the Saviors, which is a football team, fictional football team, obviously in this movie. But their all-star quarterback is Isaiah White, and he's very much the GOAT. He is him. There's people who are chanting his name. There's people who are wearing his jerseys. Even Cameron's family has an actual altar set up. It's meant to be an actual altar. So they have every single element. So they have water, fire, wind, metal, and earth. And they have these candles lit around the picture of Isaiah White, around the Saviors, all of this mentality of like, we're going to help him win. It's the Sunday football feeling, you want your team to win mentality. So I'll keep going with the story, but I do think that this movie is honestly better for people who are not football fans because there's a lot more to look at. Everything, as a football fan, you already know, like, okay, I get it. It's weird that we're wearing shirts with people's names on them. It's odd that we're screaming at the TV. It's odd that we have our good luck charms for these things that don't really matter to us. But there would be more to look at in that realm. Anyway, so now we fast forward. Cam has a girlfriend. He's very successful with football. He's about to get drafted, and it's almost draft time. So right before he goes to the combine, which is basically the performance before the draft, he has this accident. We don't know exactly what happened. We see this, one of the three mascots. So the Saviors have three mascots, and one of the three mascots we see hit Cam in the back of the head, and then we wake up and he has a concussion and all of these staples in his head. We don't know, it's never really confirmed if that was all a trick or that was all something. So what we end up having is this sort of warped reality or a play already put in action. It's unclear. Regardless, Cam is hit in the head. He has a concussion like just moments before the combine. He goes to the combine. He doesn't perform very well. And then he gets a phone call from Isaiah White saying, I've been following you in this draft, and I really want to take you under my wing and teach you right before we get into the draft because I know you didn't do too well at the combine. So this is where it's that idea of like maybe this was manipulated and planned. Not really maybe, but you'll see where I'm getting to. So Cam is like, hell yeah, this is the opportunity of a lifetime, and I get to have a little bit of a redo from what I just messed up. So we go to the middle of nowhere, and this is where Isaiah White's house is. It is literally on four corners, so we're at that crossroads, which is the idea of where you'll meet the devil. So that's already the allude. We get into the house, and Cam pulls out his phone, and he has a whole bunch of text messages, and one of them is 1717 Masonic Avenue. So we're talking a little bit about like the Freemasons and some of that conspiracy in the background. So we have a lot of homages to a lot of different realms, metaphysical, actual religion, and everything in the background as well. So after we go inside, we meet Isaiah White. He is stretching animal skin, so doing something very odd and really like only rich man person thing to do. And he basically just has Cam jump right in, and he's like, you want to be him, you want to be the GOAT, you want to be the best, then you're gonna have to basically survive my boot camp. So obviously that becomes literal, but now we follow them throughout this whole compound. It's this incredible modern house, but throughout the entire movie, we continue to get hit with these themes of God and religion. Every single one of them has a cross on, and even when we're talking about him, it's this idea of getting back to capital HIM, God, Jesus Christ, whatever that sort of subscription is, but it's very much you die on the cross and there is this sacrifice, and everybody's lucky to drink from your cup and have of your flesh and your blood. And again, what is the cost of sacrifice? What are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to put your blood, sweat, and tears? It's a consistent sports rhetoric throughout the entire thing, religious rhetoric throughout the entire thing. And then we're also talking about a lot about the family. So one of the things that Isaiah White says to Cam in the beginning is, what are you willing to sacrifice, but also what drives you? And so he's like, my family and my girl, like I love all of them. And Isaiah is kind of like, well, that's not good enough. I'm going to need you to dig even deeper for all of this sacrifice and discipline that you're going to need here. So he's like, if you want to know my ranking, it is football, family, and then God. And that ranking becomes important for the very grand finale, for the ending. So as we're getting through this compound, it is evident that there's a lot more at play than just football. It is very much weekend coded, exactly what I was talking about with the haunted house. It's, what is the price of fame? What do people want to watch? What is this blood, sweat, and tears that we are watching? We have Jim Jeffries play the trainer, which has a very interesting cast. And he keeps trying to warn Cam along the way. He's like, you got to get out of here. You got to run. And he keeps injecting him with this stuff. And he's like, don't worry, I'm helping you be prepared. So he seems to be a good guy throughout all of this. He's trying to give Cam a little bit of like a nod to the truth. But it's really the idea that Cam, like, you can't not know. One of the other biggest pieces of themes that we continue to see is this idea of like gladiator fight. So from that perspective, I really do like it, because we are thinking, again, very similarly to The Long Walk, but also to the Hunger Games, of this idea of like, let's battle it out. Only one survive. Who's going to win? I'm going to pick my favorite. You're going to pick your favorite. We're all in teams, that type of mentality. So I do like it from that perspective. As we continue to go through the compound, things get really weirder and weirder. There are these guys who play football with them and really like take one for the team every single time that Cam messes up. And it's all brutal, it's all physical, it's all bloody. We also have Cam almost trying to escape, but then realizing that like there really is no way out. We have all of the elements throughout the movie as well. So again, that earth, wind, fire, metal, all of those, and water. We have a lot of ice baths that we see with ice that is 100% jello. And we also have the contradiction in that same room of a sauna. Right outside the sauna is the triangle, which is the actual element of fire. We have later on this triangle with a big circle in the center. And Jim Jeffries, as the trainer, makes a comment to Cam that this compound and this training is almost like rehab, and you have to force yourself to get up every day and be disciplined and all of that. And I looked up that symbol of the triangle with the circle in the center, and I just want to read this to you because I thought it was very interesting. It is a triangle that represents AA, or Alcoholics Anonymous. It represents recovery, unity, and service. The circle signifies the whole world of AA and the fellowship of people who support one another's journey to recovery. The symbol holds deep meaning in this context, representing the unified approach to overcoming the three-part disease of alcoholism: physical, mental, and spiritual, through the program's three main tenets. So it's very interesting to me that this is very, I would like to think that this is very purposeful, because this is that same tie that we are talking about with this unhinged nature of this football boot camp. It's physical, and then it's mental, and then it's spiritual. So we have that same unfolding happening in front of us, which is really cool. So as things start to lean more into this like stardom and celebrity nature, we have Cam go to like one final party, and at this party is his agent, but it's also the owner of the Saviors, who is just as old and gross as a lot of these other football team owners. And even just that mentality alone of like, football teams have to have owners. Like, these young men are owned by somebody. It's so weird. So you have that homage here. But then it becomes this reveal that all this time, Cam's father, who has passed away, and that's like a big driver, is like, I got to make my dad proud. Cam's father made a deal with the owner of the Saviors way back when Cam was a child. So this whole time he's really prided himself and been very proud at the fact that like he's done all the work to get here. He's done everything he can. He is the best because he's proven that he is the best, not knowing at all that everything behind the scenes has already been sort of played out for him. So not only then does this turn into a conversation of who deserves it, but the idea of fate as well. You know, this was your destiny. This is what's going to happen. There's a lot of signs throughout the entire movie of destiny, determination, grit. We then do have the sign right above the party, and it's recreation. So it's not all about like a cycle or anything like that. It is all about replacement. It is, you are the temporary him. You are the temporary goat. And so that this cycle is just going to perpetuate no matter what, because people always want somebody to root for, and somebody always wants to be that person that people root for. So even in terms of like the blood aspect, and again, that's from more of a religious side of things, you know, Cam is doing these modeling photo shoots, and one of the things that's just so incredibly obvious is that he is set up to be God at the Last Supper. And as, again, things get weirder and weirder, and then we're at this party, he's like, no, you know, this is not what I want. If my dad did this all these years ago, then the answer is no. And they don't really take no for an answer. And so then he just wakes up, he's on the ice, and he's getting Isaiah White's blood pumped inside of him. So it's this idea that like, you are lucky to have the blood of that person who came before you. You're lucky to have his blood, which again is very much religious. But it is also the idea that now Cam is essentially just meat chilling on ice, getting almost like this reversal possession in a way. You know, now I'm possessed with the blood of him in that realm. Another thing to mention sort of in the background is that Isaiah White's jersey has thorns on it. So it's like, you know, he's wearing the thorn crown type of thing. So we get to the very ending, and we're in that room where there's the triangle with the circle in it. And Isaiah White pretty much explains the whole thing to Cam. And he says, you know, this is the cycle that perpetuates. And I was given the blood of that mentor who came before me, and on upward and upward and upward. And this entire time he just keeps saying, like, the worst thing that you can become is a mascot. A failed athlete is just a mascot. And the whole reason why we have 3 mascots that represent the Saviors is probably the body, mind, and spirit. It could also be like the Father, Son, Holy Spirit type of thing. You could go a number of ways with the threes. But the whole point in that conversation is the idea of like mascots are who are entertaining you, but so are equally the athletes. So just don't become like a lame version of what you can be. So they get into this brawl, and Isaiah says there can only be one. So whoever's going to leave this room is whoever's going to leave this room. So Cam kills Isaiah, walks out of the room into this really funky football field. And in this football field, we have the owners with their pig masks on. Rather than sheep, which I thought was very interesting, we have pigs to the slaughter this time instead of sheep or lamb or goat to the slaughter. And Isaiah White's wife, she's been the one who sort of planted more of these like celebrity-esque seeds along the way. It is really the idea of like the magician's assistant. Like she is trying to look the best and play the part and really distract Cam from everything else that's going on. And so now she's sitting there with the Bible open in front of her, and it's like, okay, now you're essentially at mass, and this is here's your contract, you have to sign the contract, and now you take Isaiah White's place. And Cam just says, no, this is not how I'm going to do it. This is not what I'm going to do. And then he ends up having to kill everybody. At the center of this football field is this star with an infinity in it. And again, that's just another add to the 5 elements, but also this idea that everything is eternal. And he doesn't kill his agent, but he kills everybody else. And you have this moment at the end where the agent is like dragged, not by anything that's in the room itself, just like floats over to the center of this star, and all of his arms are out and his legs are out, and we just hear screaming, but we don't see anything. And then his whole body explodes, just an explosion of blood. So we can only assume that it's the old style of torture where they would tie your body parts to horses or carriages and they would drive away and rip you apart. So again, just another nod to this gladiator style of things. So that is where the movie ends. We don't know what's going to happen to Cam. We don't know what type of spiritual or metaphysical overlay this whole thing really does have. We don't even know what's 100% real because Cam is concussed and certainly super injured, drugged up with all of this run stuff from Jim Jeffries. So it's this idea of like, we don't know 100% what the truth is, but we also know that it is beaten into us, that it is all about God, family, football, gladiator. Even the room that Cam stays in, it changes colors, but it's meant to look at one time like a church and then the next time like more of a coliseum. So the sets are really cool. But getting into the rating itself. So for the story itself, I would give it a 4 out of 5. I think that it's cool. Again, I love the idea that we have football bleeding over into horror. We have this same sort of Hunger Games feeling, but with horror, which I always love. So that's great. Originality, I would also give it a 4 out of 5. You know, we've seen a lot of movies that are all about like celebrity nature and conspiracy theories even. But to really be poignant about football and the whole football culture, and as true as it is, it feels like this movie should have been made quite a long time ago. For acting, I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I am not the biggest fan of how Marlon Wayans acts in this movie. I think it's really over the top of this crazed psycho celebrity and just like the untouchability aspect of it. And I get that that's the point, but it feels a little too mental for me. Like, if you met this person, you wouldn't be like, oh yeah, they're super successful and they're just kind of quirky. You're like, no, so we gotta call somebody. So to me, it's a little overdone. But Cam, he did a really great job. I have not seen him anything else. He's been in a number of rom-coms. He sounds exactly like Channing Tatum, which is kind of funny, but he did a really great job. For production, this gets a 5 out of 5. The sets, the backgrounds, everything to look at. It's a classic Jordan Peele movie. There's a lot of things that you can look around at. This to me feels much more obvious than some of the other movies that he has produced. And it doesn't take away from the production, though. It's a really pretty, well done, aesthetically movie. And for scares, I'll go 2.5 to 3. This is not a scary movie whatsoever, but there is a good amount of gore. I do love the ending and the whole outdoor set. All of the cheerleaders have just these like flat faces. All the band people the same way. The owners are all pigs. So I like all of that, and I think that that's what adds to this like, ooh, it's creepy, it's cool. But this is not scary. Like, I would show this to my mother. Like, this is not scary. So all in all, we get a normal 4 out of 5. I would go slightly lower, you know, maybe 3.7, 3.8. The only reason why I wouldn't go higher is just because, like, even in watching the trailer, I feel like I've watched this movie. Like, I didn't need to sit there for a whole 2 hours to figure out what was going to happen. It's all pretty spelled out in the trailer. And I wish that there was something secret or a twist or something that would happen that would be different than what I expected. But it's just like, all right, like that was good. That's cool that we have a movie about football now. That's about it. You know, I don't know that I'm going to go out of my way to recommend this to anybody, especially in the ranking of Jordan Peele movies. I would put this pretty low. And again, you know, I think this is something that should be out there that I'm glad that we have. I guess the way that I would compare him is almost to Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. Like, I'm glad that it's made, but when it was made and when I watched it, it's still just sort of like, that was cool. Like, that, just another one for the books type of thing. So a little bit disappointing in the review, just because I do wish that there was more and more for us to talk about. But for the fact of everything being spelled out and every single Easter egg being really right there in front of your face, there wasn't as much exploring to do as other Jordan Peele movies, and so I just felt a little bored. But not bad, not bad. So that is it for our review. Go see this movie, coming out on Friday, September 19th. If you go see it, let me know what you think. Let me know how it compares to this review. And thanks as always for watching. We will be back with more reviews certainly soon.